So, guys, I want to talk about the Strickland interview, and there's a lot of people saying that the interview was very Black Lives Matter in the sense that it was like very pro-black, and it was only just about Strickland being a black guy, winning the AEW championship, and many people were just bringing up like what it means for black people and his blackness, and just going forward. Um, there are a couple of things I do want to say. I do think that that was one of the big focuses of this interview, but I don't necessarily see it as like very Black Lives Matter or anti-white or just like his blackness is like the only thing that's really focused on. I do think that what Swerve was trying to do is be inspirational, and he was also trying to really treat it like a presidency in the sense that when you see somebody win, you know, when the White House, they always like talk and try to give you a feel of how things are going to be really. Like when Samoa Joe said that famous line of, there's a lot of loudmouths and people talk about drama on Twitter, like bring the real fight. That was really what his reign was about. Really, was trying to find those people who really cared about bringing their fight game to AEW instead of just this Twitter drama that was going on at that time. Or you look at somebody like MJF, like how he was talking about how he's one of the first of the four pillars to get it. So it's almost like a youth movement, or just saying that it's not just going to be these former former WWE people or NJPW people holding the AEW championship. It's actually going to go to somebody who's never held a heavyweight championship before. And with Swerve, I think that what he's trying to say is that, he did a lot of grinding to get there, and a lot of just, really like backstage, like being told, okay, well, you can have the international title, but then no, I want the biggest and that type of title. So like really somebody who's really driven to just be there and work hard, and then say things like, it's not just him, it was Nana and his family, and it was also just having an opportunity, a small one, and making a big deal out of it. Or even like two things that happened at All Out last year, which was people were saying, okay, the Acclaim should have won, and that was a motivation for him to kind of improve his game, really. And also just, how the incident with CM Punk and the Young Bucks at All Out really just, dampered the evening, but it should have been motivation for him to just work hard and just be somebody who wants to be there, really. So there was just a lot of sense of somebody just telling you, really encouraging, putting in the grind, putting in just self-advocating, and that's that, really. I also really appreciate what he said is that, where he comes from, people like him, the ones who make excuses uh, don't last long or something like that, and that's actually really good, because there are a lot of people in this world that try to just be apologetic or about their bad behavior, or about not putting in their best, or not living to their potential, or having a goal and not really being organized to it, and they just usually die out in the sense that they're just wasting their life energy. They're not actually going to the next step, really. So I like that, because that's very true. It's not about excuses, it's about the grind. And I also think that I like that he said that the roster is very competitive. You look at this show, there's actually like 5 matches that could have been the main event match. And I really think that this is kind of like a hint at CM Punk, really, when you kind of look at like how he reacted at All Out, where he was kind of like putting down people on the roster, where Strickland's trying to uplift people. So, that's kind of like the contrast. I really just think that his intention was really to say, he's the champion. Yes, it is a big deal for black wrestlers and black fans of wrestling, but it's also a big deal to say that it's fans of Sports Strickland, it's fans of wrestlers as well. It's a big deal that he's champion, in the sense that he's somebody who worked hard and put in the effort and the grind towards it. So it's not just a racial thing. It's for anybody. And like he said, that I really think that I like what he said. It's not really just about for black people. It's really just about anybody. Like anybody can be champion. It's just you gotta put in the grind. You gotta work hard. You gotta be committed. You gotta look at how you can improve and self-better yourself. That's really the main message. And I also like what he said too, that when it comes to being a champion, he does believe that, okay, well, let's say there's talks about him becoming a champion or another person. Sometimes when it comes to black wrestlers or some wrestlers, you look at somebody like LA Knight, or you look at other wrestlers in other companies where people say, okay, we're going to put the title on you, but we're going to wait an extended amount of time. We're going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then what happens is that then that person never gets the title because, life happens or people get injuries or other people are as hot for it. You looked at somebody like Braun Strowman, where he was very hot, but instead of giving him the title, they had him lose his title shot, and then then it was years after he was didn't have the same type of momentum really. Then they're like, okay, we're gonna put the title on you. Or you look at somebody like or or even like like as he said about Kofi Kingston, how that's a great example too, like how WWE waited like 30 years to put no, but like waited over 60 years to put a title on a black wrestler, and now they're doing the butterfly effect where they're saying no, the first black champion is The Rock, just because it looks better to say it happened in the 90s versus it happened in 2019. And I like what he said. He doesn't want that to happen really because that's true. What would happen if it's like AEW in the 50-50s, and then Swerve's like son is actually talking about being the first black champion, or what would happen if they did what WWE did and they said, okay, well, 60 years later, from the 1950s, I believe WWF started, and the first black champion was was in 2019 WWF Heavyweight Championship. What would happen if it was like Strickland's grandchildren in the year 2080? It was 60 years after AEW started around. That would just be very kind of sad and hurting, really. So it's important for people to know when it's the right time for them. They have to just really advocate about becoming a champion. So I really think that he's just trying to keep positive goals. I guess he's trying to be inspiring to the black community and black youth and black fans. But I really think that he said, I think what he's trying to say that even though there is me directly trying to inspire them and be a role model and do other things, it's not just the black group, it's all other groups. So I really think that that's important to highlight. I think that it's also important to highlight that he's really trying to put the roster over. He wants to talk about collaboration and self-betterment and all those other things, because those things are very positive. And definitely, if you want to be a competitive wrestler, you really have to start being one of those wrestlers that care about, the locker room, who's best to work with, and having the best matches possible, really. So I really think that with all this, I really look at Swerve with positive eyes. I don't look at him as some, anti-white, pro-black type of person, or just really just saying, winning the title as a black man is just the only thing that he's about, really. He's not so one-dimensional. And then the other thing that I have to say about it is I think that one of the big weakness of it is he didn't really talk about future opponents. He could have said Adam Cole, Darby Allin, Wardlow, maybe Dalton Castle, or other people that would work well with him, Kristen Cage. There's a lot that you can kind of do with this, but I really think they have to just, when it comes to like this week, they really have to think about like who's gonna face Swerve at Double or Nothing. My worry is that they're gonna do Will Ospreay, and I don't want that, because if Will Ospreay's like on the leaderboard, he says, I'm like the number one guy. I want him to say, I talked to Tony, and I want to get my shot at at the Wembley Stadium show, because that would be the best. That would sell it out, really. I really think that they need to find a good opponent for Will Ospreay. That could be Bryan Danielson. That could be Edge. That could be Christian. That could be MJF if he comes back. You could do a rematch with Samoa Joe, but that would be a bad idea, because you can't be Swerve and Joe or Swerve and Hangman. You can't do that too many times. But I do think with Swerve, as I've said, that I really think that I wish they kind of also focus on who would be good opponents for him.
but I don't think that the focus was just on him coming off like a very stereotypical Black Lives Matter person, where it's all about his blackness and being a black guy winning this. It was part of it, but it was not really the center point. The center point was just saying, you know what, it's a great thing that he's champion. He wants to be inspiring to everybody, all races, all groups, and he's going to encourage everybody to put in the grind to become a champion as the way of getting there, instead of instead of just like people being rewarded, or just people bitching and complaining and moaning and other things like that. He really wants to be anti all that. He wants everybody in AEW to raise their game and be like, you know what, we're a competitive locker because we have a bunch of great matches and other things like that. So I do think that's the selling point of all this. So that's all I have to say. I wish Sports Strickland the best with his championship reign.